Welcome to the Red Shirt Podcast with your hosts, Vernon and Nigel. The Red Shirt Podcast, by Reds, for Reds.
Hello and welcome to another Red Shirt Podcast with Vernon and Nigel. Nigel, we're in Old Trafford. It's sunny, it's chilly, but this weekend, Ollie seemed to get it right. How you doing, my friend?
I'm not too bad. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good.
We've got a lot to unpick today. But before we do, we've had one or two comments, haven't we, on the last pod?
We have. I know it was a painful pod, guys, and we're glad that you actually sat through it because it was hard dissecting it. Yeah. So I'd like to give a big shout out to the guys that got back to us with their comments. Some guys that we know from, back in the day, some guys that I've played football with, even guys that have been on the podcast. So first of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to Ben Jones. Do you know what I mean? A guy that I used to play football with for many years. Good footballer, Nigel. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
He liked to caress it. When he had a shot, he had this sort of he loved to caress it into the bottom corner. Ben Jones, you know what I mean? His brother Tim, big shout out to them too. Then obviously, of course, Newton Thompson. Remember Newton, Nigel?
Oh, there's a blast from the past. How's our Newton doing?
You know what I mean? Newton,
get on the show.
Exactly, Newton. Whenever you're ready to come on, you know what I mean? You have a corner. Hilton Alexander that joined us a few weeks ago. A big thank you to him as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I had some really good points about who we were playing defense. We had Dan from the other week that came on, who joined us from Birmingham. Do you know what I mean? Made some really good points, And last but not least, Mike Davidson and John Cunningham. Thank you, guys. Much appreciated. And please get in those comments. Get in those comments. If you don't agree with us, and I'm sure most of you don't agree with Nigel anyway, well, get in and give us a shout out, because we're more than happy to give you a shout out back. This is a forum, guys, and we're a community, and it's about you making your opinions known for the love of our great club, Manchester United. Do you know what I mean, Nigel?
Well said, Phil. And it's one thing, we actually enjoyed putting these pods together. We're going to talk about United anyway, so we might as well record it and share our views. But there's nothing better, nothing gives us a bigger buzz than when, we get comments, good or bad. You know what I mean? We want that engagement, because it's just like you're in the pub, you're talking to your mate, and there's somebody on the other side of the pub shouts like, "You're talking rubbish." And before you know it, you're having a big conversation you're bantering amongst people you don't know. And at the end of the night, you become mates. So, we are a community. We are here for you. So please keep those comments coming.
Exactly. So we're going to get back on to Saturday's game, Nigel, dubbed by the press and social media as El Sacchio. That's what the game is being dubbed as. Yeah. It was Nuno and Ole, both of them under a lot of pressure. And we'll go into it later, but I suppose it was a real sliding doors moment, wasn't it? One manager has actually departed his duties, which was yesterday. But we'll go on to that in a bit. We'll go on to that narrative in a bit. And first of all, we'll talk about the game now. First of all, Ollie went back, changed his formation, Nigel. Obviously, Paul Pogba was suspended, so he was naturally admitted. He's got a 3-game suspension after the sending off against Liverpool.
Yeah.
But Ollie decided to go with 5 at the back, Fred and McTominay in the middle, with Bruno as you pushed up number 10. And you know what, Nigel? We've been saying it for a few weeks, me and you. Edison Cavani up front with Ronnie, and it gave us some natural balance, didn't it?
Absolutely. It's exactly what we were crying out for. Cavani is just you talk about in a football team, you need some workhorses and you need your stars. Yeah. And Cavani happens to be that one guy that's both of them. He's a workhorse and he's also got immense quality in those boots. And so when he was on there, it's obvious that he gives us that energy, that movement up front. And to be fair to Ronaldo, he does get about that pitch. Sometimes he pops up on the left, pops up on the right. But the issue I always said from day one was going to be supply lines into Ronaldo, into Cavani. And, 5 at the back. I mean, okay, 5 at the back. It's not 4-3-3, which we were promised, but it actually worked, didn't it? It didn't come as any surprise that he would do something like that. Number one, because Maguire, he was just overexposed because he's just not fit yet, but he's still stubborn and still playing him, so he's going to protect Maguire. But fortunately, Varane's back. But the 5 at the back means that we're solid. It means we're not going to lose, are we? So you can see on his game there, just don't lose. So he settles up not to lose. And of course, we've got enough quality up front to make a difference when it matters if we get those chances. And that's what happened.
And I think that's what you've got to do as a manager, hasn't it? Unfortunately, they didn't have a midweek game to focus on. Like a lot of the time, we've played football, Nigel. You get a good beating, and it was we did get a good hiding against Liverpool. What you do is you look at, it's about then your next game. It's about a reaction. They always talk about that in football. And you want your next game. And United had to work, and wait for a game. So you could see that they've been working on the shape, couldn't you, all week? And I think the thing is people might turn around and say, we shouldn't have gone to 5 at the back. But I remember after the 6-1 mauling we got off City, Ferguson just went to a tight back 4. It was about not conceding, And when you've got the firepower that United do have, there's a good chance that if you keep a clean sheet, you are gonna score. And you could see the shape, couldn't you? And how tight it was, and how hard they'd worked at that formation. And it was funny because obviously, Spurs had an early opportunity with Son, which they missed, which they felt would have, if it had gone in, it possibly could have been ruled out for offside.
Offside, yeah.
Then you had Romero's goal from the corner, which was definitely offside. And then United just galvanised themselves, didn't they? And got themselves, into the game. And I've got to say, if that's not one of the passes of the season from Bruno, and what a finish, Nigel.
Yeah, okay. So I'm trying not to be miserable. Yeah. The finish, exquisite. I have no problem with the finish. Should the defender, is it Ben Shepherd?
It's what do you call Davis? Ben Davis. Ben Shepherd, Nigel. He's a TV presenter.
He's a TV star, isn't he? I've met him actually. I've met Ben. That's why he popped up in the air.
I think he's on the drop, Nigel.
Ben Davis. If that was Lindelof, I would be going mad. I think we'd all be apoplectic with rage. Because that's a kind of classic thing that happens to Lindelof, and he lets that go. And of course, the striker's on the back post. But fortunately for us, it's not our problem to worry about. The ball came across. Defender should have dealt with that ball, but it didn't. And Ronaldo does the rest and does what he does best, which is put the ball in the back of the net. So, I'm listening to you. I'm trying not to be negative, but there were 2 chances that they had. One of them, both of them offside. But we're talking about fine margins. Had they timed their run slightly better, we could have been 2-0 down. But with Son being a bit more careful, and with that other guy being a bit more careful, could have been 2-0 down again. So, and then we galvanized after that. But I was still sat there thinking, even with 5 at the back, we're just getting sliced open here by a rubbish Tottenham. Let's make no mistake. People can talk about it's only Tottenham. For once, it really was just only Tottenham. They were absolutely woeful for the whole game. The amount of times they gave the ball back to us, it was almost like they wanted Nuno out. So I think go on.
I think, sorry, it's quite a good point that you made, because obviously there was a lot of speculation in the week about Ole, his position. One thing that you couldn't say is that those players don't want to play for Ole, can you? Do you know what I mean? We've seen, you could see that, obviously there was talk, there was obviously, kind of like the club said that, that they wasn't sort of like looking for a replacement. But I think...
What did you make of the Pogba thing? When Pogba, obviously there was that statement that came out in the press that
fake
Pogba,
news.
Yeah, it was fake.
I think it was
However,
quite
normally Pogba doesn't bother, does he?
No, exactly. And I thought it was interesting that he did address it, because this is a guy that on his social media account doesn't have that, he doesn't sort of like say that he plays for Manchester United, because I think he believes that he gets too much abuse on his social media account. But I think it was kind of, it showed the strength that they do obviously feel comfortable and want to protect the manager, because it would be quite easy for him. And we've seen Pogba do it again. And that's a very good point that you made with his agent. With his agent, run with that sort of narrative, haven't we, Nigel? You know, where they're running with that press and that story. And he was very quick to jump on it, wasn't he? You know, to just say, look, guys, it's fake. Don't believe, you know, the story. So I thought that was good. And it was kind of funny, Nigel, because as soon as that Ronaldo goal went in, there was a feeling around, obviously, you know, the stadium and Spurs fans that was the game done. You know, the players kind of like looked totally bereft of ideas, didn't they, of what to do. You know, it was almost like, okay, Kane come deep, let's try and get a long ball to, you know, Son on the break. And you could just see it, couldn't you? It was almost like the whole of their confidence had been drained with that goal.
It was freestyle football. There clearly was no plan from Nuno, so the players were just having to make it up on the hoof, you know. And it looked like us. If I'm being honest, I'm like, Tottenham just are bereft of any ideas. They don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. They're not really playing for each other. They're not, you know, like we said last week, there comes a time where you say, right, not another goal. Let's keep it tight for 10 minutes. There was none of that going on. They were just seemed to. I thought Tottenham were odd. It's quite obvious that there's a breakdown in communication between the manager and the player. So it's no surprise that he's gone.
I think that's an interesting point, because it seemed to me that, and I don't think he's going to use this. You know, I don't think he's going to use this formation every week. So United obviously went with 5 at the back. They brought Varane back in, played with Lindelof, Maguire, Varane as the 3, and obviously they had Wan-Bissaka and they had Shaw as the wing backs. McTominay and Fred, I thought, had impressive games, you know, in the middle.
Exactly. Big shout out for McTominay. You know, I thought McTominay played great.
Yeah. I mean, from a technical coaching point of view, you could see that the lines and the shape that they'd worked on, so that nobody could break through the, you know, like Liverpool the week before had broke so easily through those lines. What United were doing was keeping that shape constantly, you know, so that it was hard, you know, to get through. What they were accused of, the week before was kind of like half pressing and not really bothering. Whereas this week, you could see that once they'd gone a goal ahead, they were confident in their shape. And I think, you know, from a coach, look, we know we've got 2 very inexperienced coaches in McKenna and Carrick and Ole and the rest of the backroom staff. And I think they've taken a lot of pressure, you know, in the week, and a lot of criticism. And I think one thing that you've kind of got to do is maybe take your hat off to them, because you can say, well, they've done the work on the shape, you know, and, you know, I know it's Spurs, but you still got to beat who's in front of you, haven't you, Nigel?
Absolutely. But I mean, just to pick up on that point that you just made there, I mean, because everybody keeps saying, you know, everyone's inexperienced, and you know, sometimes even that statement, I'm wondering, because they've been there 3 years now, so how long does it take to get experience? You've got 3 seasons.
You've got to get it somehow, haven't you, Nigel?
You've got to get it somehow. But they've been at this for 3 years now. Plus, people like Carrick have been at the club for over 10 years. So, you know, I know coaching is different to playing, but obviously as a player, you're being coached. So presumably you're taking something in that you can then impart to the next generation of players when you become a coach. You've been doing it for 3 years. You know, this is probably the first time that I've seen some semblance of an idea from a coaching point of view that translates to the players and actually then works. And I think...
Well, I think what we've said on recent weeks is they've struggled to get the balance right with Ronaldo up front, haven't they?
Right, yeah.
You know, they've struggled with a balance and a formation. And I think what you do by having Cavani in there, and obviously, you know, he's actually got fit now, is he will start the press, but also what he does from the front is set an example of how the team is gonna start and finish.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He sets the tone, doesn't he? I think that's the best word to use in it as a phrase.
That's a great
He
word.
sets the tone.
Yeah. And speaking of Cavani, what a great goal he scored.
Nigel, thank you. I'm just gonna come to that. I'm so glad that you've led me into it, because it was quite interesting, because obviously McTominay and Bruno win the ball, don't they, in the middle? Yeah. And then obviously there's a Bruno wins it, and there's this little run, and there's just three of them, isn't there? You know, and you can see the triangle of space in it. You can see the United shape. If you watch very carefully, sort of like lays it off, and you know, Ronaldo does this nice little Cruyff turn, doesn't he? And it's a made to measure pass, isn't it, with the weight which is just right. But what I want to talk about is anybody that plays up front. You watch Cavani, how he curves his run back to an angle, and then angles in to beat the offside trap. And you know, it was funny because when I actually first saw the goal, I thought he'd put it underneath his body. I thought Lloris had actually dived over the ball.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that.
No.
I realised he actually dinked it when I saw the replay.
Dinked it, my friend.
And then it was. And then the celebration was an absolute show of strength that this is us against the world, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, as we, you know, we're Manchester United. We've won it all. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And the fans that went down, the away fans, the vanguard of this club, they can make an atmosphere at any club, at any stadium in this country. We travel as an army. Yeah, I mean, we're united as an army. Yeah. And, you know, those guys have to be proud of playing in front of that support.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
I think you made some great points. I mean, firstly, let me just get onto the Ronaldo's contribution to that goal. It was just like classic Ronaldo from yesteryear. The way he got that ball, and the way he digs it in and just sends the defender for Pakistanis. And then the way he just like knocked the ball through perfectly, and then like you said, the bend of everything about that goal was like poetry in motion. I know I say that quite a lot, but I loved everything about that goal. And it makes me wonder, it makes me slightly worried about is Ollie now gonna not include the youth, because you've got Greenwood who just needs a bit of coaching, you've got Sancho who he just needs the confidence to know that he's still trusted. You know, you've got obviously Rashford that did come in, you got Marshall, you got all these players, you got Lingard, you know, who we kept. So, but he's now maybe he's hit upon a formation that he might think, hey, up here, we could win with this. It could, but then you can't do that at the cost of the other players. So what's he going to do?
Well, I think what he had to do for Saturday's game, Nigel, and again, it's a great point that you made, especially with our youth, because I mean, the combined age of Ronaldo and, you know, Cavani is the same age as my dad. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He's looking youthful in his 70s, Mr. Pivot. I'll give you a shout out, Dad. But what I think they had to do on Saturday was they had to make it tight. So the luxury players like Greenwood and Sancho, you know, players that may lose the ball in certain situations, you know, they had to sort of like.
What isn't that Bruno? No, Bruno that loses the ball in certain situations.
Yeah, but Bruno. What I'm saying is, Nigel, you can afford to have one player who can take risks on Saturday. Yeah. But if they'd got come out of that game, the main aim of that game was not to concede. Yeah. And see what we get on the break, because they had to galvanize. And, you know, after we conceded, like, you know, if you think about it, four against Leicester, 5 against Liverpool, you know, in 2 league games, that it was 9 goals. So if we'd have conceded another few on Saturday, it would have been disastrous. Yeah. Which what they had to do was just galvanize. Now, this is where we will see Ole's strength as a coach when it comes to rotating, because I think me and you have agreed on numerous occasions that when he does come to rotating, he does it with too many players and we then lack the flow that we want. So I think he's, I think what will happen is that he needed to basically ensure that we didn't concede, and then there was always a good chance, because again, even though Tottenham are struggling, they do have, two world-class forwards in Son and Kane, and Moira's. I think unfortunately that was kind of like, the straw that broke the camel's back, because obviously Nuno decided to take off Moura, who was seen as their best player.
Do you see what he did when he took him off? It was awful. I mean, the abuse he got from his own fans. You knew then, actually, you thought, there's no way this is sustainable, because the fans were mad at him. He made the wrong decision. It's like he was their best player.
I suppose the thing is, though, is it's very hard, isn't it? Because the thing is, as fans, you've always got to remember that they're seeing a game from a different point of view than what we see it. They're seeing little things that we are. But I think everybody to a man would say that there was kind of like their best player, and it was a relief, as a United fan, that he was coming off. You're thinking to yourself, this is great. But one thing that I wanted to go back to, Nigel, quickly before I go to the third goal, was Ronaldo's goal that was disallowed by VAR.
We spoke about this, didn't we? Oh my, that was my favorite goal of the game. I mean, sometimes the offside rules should have a caveat that if the goal is sublime, it's got to stand, because that goal was incredible.
Player. They're the two rules. If it's a fantastic goal and scored by any United player, offside.
We'll bend the offside rule exactly, because like he knew it was offside, didn't he? You could see as soon as he scored, it was like you could see his eyes darting at the linesman, and of course the flag goes up, and it's like well, just the way
I've got to say,
everyone keeps saying that Ronaldo only scores tappings, but that was no tapping. He got that ball, 25 yards out, smack, bang, top bins. It's just right. Ronaldo's here.
Well, the funniest thing is that you can see Lloris, right? I'm going to position myself, and as he's trying to position himself, you can see him go like that.
Ball's gone.
Gone past him. You can just see him go like that, and then it hits. But I've got to say, when it comes to VAR, Tottenham, get it sorted out at your ground. You know what I mean? We all know 20 minutes, 20 minutes that the goals are being disallowed before the communication comes down, from the scoreboard, from the announcer, that is disallowed. Tottenham, great ground, but sort out your VAR.
Sort it out.
What I would like to bring us on to is obviously the third goal, which I thought was a beautiful move. By this stage, United have brought on Matic, to shore up, to make sure, you know what I mean. He brought Lingard on. The right thing to do at that time of the game. You're 2-0 up. Tottenham don't look like they're scoring, but game management comes in.
Yeah.
Now, if Matic had the legs of a 25-year-old Nigel, we wouldn't need another CDM, would we?
No, he's great, isn't he? I mean, we've said this time and time again. He just comes on. And that's how. Again, you've got to be cute. If you play him for half a game, you can play him. You can probably play him each game. At the most important times, because he came on and there's no worries. And as soon as you see him coming on, you think this is okay. We see what Ollie's doing there. He's obviously trying to show it up, and the guy's just great, isn't he? He's just brilliant. And then
he is brilliant, isn't he? There's no other word to actually say than that. You look at what a lot of people don't realise is his technical ability, because he actually was, when he was at Benfica, a number 10 that was converted, and you can see it in his passing, and his touch is unbelievable. I mean, and also I want to go on to Rashford's third goal. A bit like you, Nigel. He's gone for the blonde highlights. He's looking good. Do you know what I mean? I can see you as exactly. But one thing that I want to talk about is, I don't know if you've noticed, Nigel, and I don't know if it's the influence of Cavani or Ronaldo at the club, but Rashford's finishing looks a hell of a lot better.
Yeah,
technically, he's just starting to place it into the bottom corner, isn't he, Nigel?
Yeah. I have noticed this. I've noticed that his conversion rate's got to be really high up there at the moment. I know he's only made a few cameo appearances, but every time he's made an appearance, he's scored. And the way he's taking those goals is with such maturity, just makes you think maybe he's now taking that next step up, Rashford, and maybe he is entering that world class kind of
sphere. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because one thing that you do know, I mean, like Cavani will always miss more chances than he'll actually score.
Yeah, like he did. I mean, the chances missed were ages, but carry on.
But you look at like his repertoire of finishing is good, and you kind of like, because like for me, for a lot of time with sort of like Rashford, he'd get through or he'd beat 2 or 3 players, and he seemed to want to take the net off, didn't he, with this rocket, scorcher of a shot. Whereas like you look at a lot of people, I know he has his critics, but actually on a one-on-one situation, Anthony Martial is actually pretty cool, isn't he? When it comes to the dink or passing it under the keeper or, just putting it in. But I must admit, because I mean, I think it's, apart from Ronaldo, I think it's naturally known that Mason Greenwood is probably the best finisher, at Old Trafford, but, big 3 points. Nuno went, obviously. Now, there's been a lot of, again, Nuno's went. There's been an approach for Conte. Conte, looks like he's going there, an 18-month contract. There's been a lot of, obviously, on social media, another big meltdown that it's another big manager that United have, have actually lost.
Yeah.
I think Samuel Lockhurst yesterday did a piece in the Manchester Evening News of 5 reasons why Conte shouldn't sign for Spurs. I think his plea was obviously to wait for the job at Old Trafford. Yeah. I mean, if I can just bring you on to that, Nigel, and your opinions on that.
Yeah, well, what came out today was the fact that United have not even made an approach to Conte. So, wait another week, wait another 5 weeks. It's quite apparent from last week that United had no plan B. And United are just like a rabbit caught in the, and by United I mean the board are like rabbits caught in the headlight, and they just want this to go away. So they've kept faith with Ollie, and and so Conte, he was like, I mean, the fact that he signed an 18-month contract really frustrates me, because you could have said, okay, Conte, we started a project. Come on, let's see what happens after 18 months. After 18 months, if it's not working, we can still, rebuild again or do something else again. But the fact that he's gone to Tottenham on an 18-month contract means that there really was little risk to United if we'd gone and got Conte. So Conte understands that, maybe he is a bit, perhaps there needs to be a time in which, do we like him? Does he like us? So, a little probation period. That's what 18 months is. Before you know it, it's gone. And if we like it, if it's all going well, you sign a longer contract. So there was little risk in getting Conte. And like I said to you the other week, we need to look after our legend, that is Solskjaer, because we like Solskjaer. I like him. I'd love nothing more than him winning, all the games for the rest of the season, and us winning the league and all that. I'd love him to get all that accolade. I don't think he's going to do it. No way. So we've got to be honest and say, look, our eyes don't lie, like you say many times. So there was a perfect opportunity to get somebody in, 18 months, no risk, and let's see if what we think is right. If what could happen with Lampard happens with Solskjaer, then it means we're right all along. It's not the players, it's the coaching. But then go on. I can talk about this all day, because of course you got the whole element of Fergie involved, and was it right for Fergie to get involved and all that kind of thing? And go on.
I think it was interesting because from apparently Fergie was down there trying on his new suit. I mean that's what came out of him being in down the training.
You've got to stop this nonsense.
Right. I mean that was
don't take the mic. Why you're talking to the United fan base? And we're not like any other fan base. Don't take the mic.
Right. So that's what they were saying. Now it's an interesting point, because that says to me if he's accepting Tottenham's approach, which it looks like he is, then that says to me that he was never in the frame. He was never approached, because if you knew that United was was there, you're gonna say, look, thanks, but no thanks.
Of course you are.
He obviously did that in the summer because he said thanks. You know, they'd approached him. We know that Nuno was about 8th on the list, so that shows you that, you know, Conte was approached about the Spurs job.
Yep.
He said no because he was waiting for something bigger to come his way. It hasn't, and I don't think that there has even been an inkling of an approach from United, because if there was, you're staying away from there, aren't you? Tottenham, it's not a great job at the moment. United have got a much better squad, the stronger squad of individuals, you know, and a better collective. You've got basically Harry Kane that just doesn't want to play for the club at the moment. You know, I like Harry Kane, but it's kind of obvious he's not motivated. Now, to me, the Conte is a pragmatist, you know, and you watch, it's his way or no way. And I think the club have sort of like thought to themselves,
that's not a pragmatist, is it?
well, I mean, he's very defensive minded.
I like to say pragmatist is football.
Yeah, pragmatist is football.
Even though when he won the league with Chelsea, he won with the most points scored, with the most goals scored and the most points accumulated until City beat it and Liverpool beat it.
No, I mean,
that's pragmatic to me.
No, he is. He's pragmatic. He's a pragmatic manager. No, and he has his system. But what I'm saying to you is, it's a system that works.
His system's 5 at the back. So
yeah, and his system. It's what I'm saying is his system works. Yeah, and he's a good. There's no doubt that he's in the top 4 coaches in the world. You can't get away from that. So I'm not trying to slight him on any sort of level. I think, you know, United have not really thought about, the board have never thought about coming into the season looking for a new manager. Do you know what I mean? And I think what you said before, Nigel, is that they're looking to ride the storm out. They think they can get through it and they'll ride it out. And I think what will probably happen is, if, you know, which I'm going to bring you on to now, is obviously we played Atlanta tonight. So obviously when we do our predictions later for this game, this podcast will come out after that, the result of that game. So to me, that says to me that he wasn't, you know, there was no approach, and they're not looking to get him. I think there was a lot of talk on social media last week, and that's all it was. It just amounted to a lot of talk. Yeah. You know, that's all it amounted to. And again, you know, we're not saying that Conte's wrong for the job or anything. You know, me and you have different opinions on the manager. Do you know what I mean? You know, what I do think is, if that he did come in, it would be probably a 2-year job, because that's what he does everywhere. You know, he comes in, does 2 years. And I'm not saying that there wouldn't be success, because he's proved wherever he is, he will go and win the league. Do you know what I mean? I think the problem is it's the fallout that every club has with him. Now, again, I don't know if the club, you know, have spoke to him and said, like, you know, or that they're just, you know, they're not warm with his appointment. You know, there may be other people, and that's all from what I'm getting. This is my opinion on it. I might be wrong, but that's my opinion. Do you know what I mean?
I you know, it wouldn't surprise me if they were burnt by Mourinho, and anyone that even looks or slightly smells like Mourinho is not going to get any joy at Old Trafford. So I think the next manager will be very interesting. And you know what? It's like we said a few pods back, that, make no mistake, in the same way in which players get touted about, managers get touted about. So, you know, there's probably 2 or 3 managers in, you know, currently, whose resume is currently on the desk at Old Trafford, you know, in the boardroom. And, you know, so, but I just don't think we were ready to pull the trigger. I think they're just still, you know, the stars that align for the board as far as the board are concerned. But, you know.
But the good thing, I think it would be a good fit. Conte would be a fantastic fit for Ronaldo. And the reason why it'd be a great fit for Ronaldo is because, Nigel, Ronaldo has an hair replacement company based in Madrid. So I think,
wow.
So I think them two would. I think, you know, they may be, as long as Ronaldo plays, quite a discount on, obviously, you know, his next syrup. Do you know what I mean? If you know what I mean. But anyway, moving on. we play Atlanta tonight, and obviously at the time of filming, we're just, I'm recording. We're only a few hours away from the game. It's going to be the same formation, isn't it, Nigel?
It's got to be, and this is what slightly disappoints me, because okay, Ollie's and the coaching staff have got it right once. Is it right to play the same formation again? He's done this before when he's hit upon a formation that works. He plays it again and it becomes disastrously wrong. Atalanta, surprise, surprise, may have watched the game against Tottenham. I may have thought, well, okay, we're going to play 5 at the back, then, we'll play 4-4-2. So, there's things you can do to combat a 5 at the back, and stretch the team. So only a fool would just, only a fool would say, oh, we've hit upon something that works, let's keep with this for the next few weeks. City watched the game against Tottenham as well. So we're going to play the 5 at the back against City as well.
Well, we've always played 5 at the back against City, haven't we? He's always played 5
because
at the back.
City play football.
Yeah. Well, I think as well what it is because I think there's a feeling as well that with Ronaldo in the team, you have to get width. And if you have Ronaldo and Cavani in the team because of their aerial ability, they've got to be width. There's got to be width, which Shaw and Wan-Bissaka are going to give you. But at the same time, you can't have a 4-2-4 formation where basically, good teams like Atalanta did in the first leg against us at Old Trafford, and Liverpool did a few days later, just carved us to pieces, through the lines. So that's, that is the thing is, and I mean, to be honest with you, Nigel, and the thing is Ollie he's basically managing from a week-to-week basis. I mean, if he goes to Atlanta tonight and gets a draw, I think that puts us on 7. That puts us on 7 points. So a home win against Young Boys will guarantee us qualification. Now, question to you is obviously they've got a few players out again. Demirel does come back, who I must admit I was very impressed with as a centre back. I think the game changed in the first leg when he went off at half time. If we were to get a 0-0 draw tonight and a 0-0 draw against City, does the pressure, is it alleviated from Ollie?
Absolutely not, no. Because that team is capable of battering Atalanta and capable of giving City a really good game. This is not the rebuild. This team is being rebuilt, and we've got all the elements that we need apart from a CDM. And in Europe, the game's slower anyway, so Mattis could even play because the game's slightly slower in Europe. More technical. So we've got a team, there's no excuses. Ollie's out of excuses. We shouldn't be going to Atalanta. It's Atalanta and hoping for a draw. As good as they are, we should be going there fully confident, all things being equal, of a win.
This is a team, though, Nigel.
He's got to win both games to placate me.
Yeah.
To placate me, he's got to win both games.
Okay. Well, the thing is this is a team that, last year in the Champions League did get beat by Liverpool at home, but then went to Anfield and won. And obviously, City got a 0-0 draw against them in the San Siro the season before, but Atalanta were all over them. It's quite, and what I'm saying is they're not a European giant, but what they are is a very, very good team. They have been in there, for the last few years. He's put together, Gasparini, the coach, has put together a really good team. Anyway, Nigel.
How many of those players get into United's team?
I think Demirel, the centre half, would get in there.
Okay, get Eddie Maguire. Who else?
Yeah, I think he would get in there. I mean, the best way of explaining Atlanta, they're a collective team.
Yeah, they're more than the sum of the parts, aren't they? They're actually a team, and it's very hard to beat a team that's well drilled. I get all that.
Yeah,
I'm trying, but what I'm saying is it's no longer the rebuild. We're rebuilt.
I think we spoke about this a few weeks ago when we played them. I mean, the best way of describing them is their kind of style. It's a bit like Leeds United. Very man. Everybody kind of man marks a player, and the thing is they're very smooth in transition from winning the ball back, flow going straight into attack. So in transitions, they are very good. They kind of like remind me of you know, like remember Nottingham Forest under Brian Clough, where you had like some really good players like Steve Hodge.
You're going back there, aren't you?
Yeah, but you know, like these players like Neil Webb, that they look fantastic for the actual club. And then when they moved away from there, you just realised that they belonged to a team and a system.
That's right. Yeah.
You know.
No, I get it. I get it with Atalanta. I know they're a good team, and on any given day they can beat you. But if we're United, and when I look at the players that we have, and Pogba's back, Pogba's potentially back because it's not.
Yeah, Pogba could be back.
So, we can't get a tune out of these boys. Plus, where's the mentality that says we're going to do these guys over the diddles? Let's do them back.
Well, we did win the game at Old Trafford. We beat them 3-2. I think as well, there is a big point that I've got to make, because when Pogba came on in that game, he actually changed it. I think you could see the influence that Pogba had and how good he was. Nigel, we're going to go for a prediction. How do you see this one going?
Actually, I do see us taking the points with this one. I think that there does appear to be a change in attitude. There does appear to be some resilience. There does appear to be that us against the world type of mentality. So, and if Pogba's suitably wound up by the press, he may come out and give us quite a display. So I'm expecting us to win this game. I don't know by how much. You know, maybe the odd goal. But I'm open to being surprised, but I'm expecting a victory today. How about you?
Okay. Well, that's important. You know what I mean? I think United could win, actually. I think they could be under the cosh for a while. But I can see a breakaway goal. I can see United breaking away and maybe getting a goal or two. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you know, and you got like Demirel, who's a good defender, but he does play on the edge. And I think we saw that a few times in the first leg where, you know, you can get in behind him and they'll think nothing of dragging you down. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know,
the house of it was real, wasn't it? Crikey. It was all over that pitch and falling on the floor. But let's see what happens.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm gonna go for a 2-0. You'll go. What's your score?
I'm gonna go for a 2-1. I think we'll go 2-0 up, and then it'll be squeaky bum time at the end because we'll concede.
Squeaky, fantastic. So Nigel, that brings us to an end, because what we're gonna do, guys, we're gonna do it. We can't do a derby preview with. It's got to be on its own, hasn't it, Nigel?
Oh, absolutely. I've got one or two guests that maybe want to be in that one. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to have to do that on its own, aren't we, Nigel? Definitely. So, you know, guys, this will come out, and then look forward either Thursday or Friday to our next podcast, because the Manchester derby, that's got to be a podcast on its own, hasn't it, Nigel?
It's got to be, my friend. It's got to be.
So, Nigel, it comes to that point where we say, you know, love life, love football, and
keep the red flag flying. Don't you forget, we're United fans. Keep it flying.
Thank you, guys. Goodbye, and we'll speak to you soon. See you later. Bye.
See ya.
The Red Shirt Podcast, by Reds, for Reds. Don't forget to like, follow and subscribe to the Red Shirt Podcast.